Hello there, people of the internet. One of the things that I do is I write down a bunch of random video topic ideas, and one of the things I wrote down was modern ammo in old guns. And I figured, you know what, that's actually going to make a really cool concept for a video. So let's go ahead and talk about modern ammo in old guns. But before we get started, I'm sure that you guys know I have a whole lot of old guns. I'm a military surplus collector, and I love taking these out to the range. So if you enjoy watching content like this, then subscribe to the channel because you're among the right crowd, and I do stuff like this all the time. That being said, I'm sure you notice I'm not currently at the range. I no longer have access to that range. It is now significantly too far away to make filming there practical. So if you'd like to help me get out to a range, then the description below has links to Patreon and Utreon, or I'm selling some t-shirts now. You can find those down below, or you can do a one-time donation through the t-shirt page, the t-shirt website, whatever that is. Anyway, whenever it comes to using modern ammunition in old guns, oh, how do I even start this? It depends on what the old gun is and what the modern ammunition is still being used for. Like, for example, I have a Mosin Nagant 9130. And this right here is chambered in 7.62 by 54 rimmed, which is a cartridge that the Russians made back in 1891. And the cartridge is still using the same dimensions, same bullet diameters, same pressures, same everything. And since it is still using all those same specifications, you can still use the modern produced 7.62 by 54 rimmed ammunition, which the Russians are still making to this day. That is their main military go-to cartridge in terms of full power cartridges. But since that ammunition is still being made to this day to that same specifications, you could take an original 1891 Mosin Nagant rifle and fire modern produced 7.62 by 54 rimmed through that rifle, and it would work just fine, assuming that the rifle was up to par and able to be shot and whatnot. But that modern ammo is still in production to this day, and very predominant, because the countries that were using the rifles that are chambered in this particular cartridge are still using that cartridge, and various rifles and machine guns, etc., various other platforms that are still chambered in that very same cartridge. The cartridge has not changed, and so as a result, there's still a bunch of 7.62 by 54 rimmed ammunition out there, and it's still being produced to this day. It's a modern round, even though it was designed in 1891. And you can take that modern round and stick it in. I could easily stick it in this World War II produced Mosin Nagant 9130 or the 1891 pattern Mosin rifles. It's the same ammunition, same specs, same everything. Now that being said, the 7.62 by 54 rimmed is definitely one of the exceptions. Actually, 7.62 by 39 is also a really good exception that falls into that same exact category. However, there's a lot of rifles out there that are from countries that are no longer using that rifle cartridge, but because there's so many different rifles out there that are chambered for that particular cartridge, there's companies nowadays who see the demand for ammunition for that particular cartridge and those particular rifles to be high enough to give them reason to produce that ammunition. This is a good example. This is an 1886 French Lebel rifle, chambered in 8mm Lebel. This right here is a cartridge that is no longer being used by any military forces nowadays, at least not by any large mainstream military forces. The French gave this up whenever they adopted the 7.5 French, and then they moved to 7.62 NATO, I believe, and 5.56. But anyway, that's a story for another time. This right here is a rifle that is inside of a cartridge that no other country is using. So the only reason why ammunition would be made for the 8mm Lebel, or insert your choice of rifle that falls into this category, like 303 British, I know that falls into this category, or just pick and choose your rifle. 6.5 Carcano is another example. 7.7 and 6.5 Jap as well. I could keep going. I have a bunch of military surplus rifles that fall into this category. But anyway, the only reason why ammunition would be made for a rifle that falls into this category is because the commercial market sees the demand as high enough to set up tooling and produce ammunition for these rifles that are out there on the civilian market, because the civilian market is buying up ammunition in such a large quantity that it justifies the production of that ammunition. 8mm Lebel is one of those rifles. Well, not necessarily this particular rifle, but there's plenty of 8mm LaBelle rifles out there on the civilian market that warrants the production of ammunition still being made, even though ammunition is not being used by any mainstream military forces. So modern produced ammunition is still being made for these rifles on the commercial market just because the commercial market has seen that they can make money off of it. And the modern made ammunition is being made to the same specifications as these old school military surplus rifles originally had for their rifles. One of the big things about modern ammunition is they all have to follow a specific spec, or, state that they don't follow that spec, like plus P plus ammunition doesn't have a specific spec that it follows, I believe. But they have to follow a specific spec with specific tolerances and specific pressures, specific bullet diameters, to ensure that even ammunition produced to this day can still be fired in, a gun that was made 100 plus years ago, like the 8mm LaBelle right there. That's 110 years old at this point. That right there is a 1912 produced rifle, and I can go out to, probably my local gun store and get some 8mm LaBelle ammunition, shove it into that rifle, and it would run it just fine because the ammunition is made to the same specifications as the original 8mm LaBelle round. So as long as the ammunition being produced, whether or not it's militarily produced like 7.62 by 54 rimmed, or produced commercially like in the case of 8mm LaBelle, then you could absolutely use, as long as it's two-spec ammunition, you could absolutely use modern produced ammunition in these old rifles. The system is designed specifically so you can do that unless the ammunition is stated otherwise. Like, for example, if you have an old C96 broom handle Mauser, don't go firing plus P plus 9mm ammunition through that thing, because it's not designed for that ammunition. But if you have a modern handgun that can handle that, then, go for it. Now, if we have, actually, this is a good example. This right here is a Steyr 8890 straight pull, and this is chambered in 8x50, and there's not a whole lot of these on the market. They're not very desirable rifles. They're not very popular rifles. And because of all of that, the ammunition for these basically does not exist. If somebody commercially was making 8x50 Steyr, and they were making it to the same specifications that this rifle was originally intended to be used in, then you could theoretically use this rifle in that 8x50 Steyr, or you could use the 8x50 Steyr ammunition in this rifle, and you would run it just fine. However, there's some caveats to that as well. This system is actually an adaptation for a black powder system, and it's actually a little flapper locking system for the straight pull design. It's not that strong of a system. Like this right here is one of the reasons why they ended up upgrading to the Steyr M95, which has a rotating bolt system. I think it was a far stronger lockup. But this right here is not designed for the ammunition that it's actually chambered in. The same thing goes with like a Vetterli rifle chambered in 6.5 Carcano. Although the 6.5 Carcano is made to a specific spec for the 6.5 Carcano series of rifles, the Italians still decided to use an older system that was just not designed for those particular cartridges, the pressures that those particular cartridges made. And so as a result, even though that 6.5 Carcano rifle is chambered in 6.5 Carcano, using modern produced full power 6.5 Carcano ammunition is not going to be ideal because you're eventually going to blow up that rifle. Same thing with a rifle like this little flapper locking delay, or this little flapper locking system inside of the straight pull rifle is just not designed to handle the full powered 8x50 Steyr cartridge. It was never intended for that. This system was designed before smokeless powder was a thing. And so as a result, even if there was a company out there that was making two-spec 8x50 Steyr ammunition, a rifle like this right here would not be ideal to be a regular shooter for that 8x50 cartridge. You would want some sort of downgraded version or downloaded version, some kind of undercharged version to where you don't wear out and blow up this rifle. So there are some caveats and some catch-22s whenever it comes to using modern produced ammunition in old guns. Something like this right here, ammunition doesn't exist. There is no modern ammo to be made unless you're a hand loader and you're using converted brass for something. In which case, that's not commercial. That is you doing one specific loading of your one specific thing for your one specific rifle. And if you mess that up and overpressure the rifle, that's entirely on you. But in the case of, like, say, the 6.5 Carcano and the Vetterli rifles, like, you have to know the limitations of the system of the rifle that you're using, because some of these old guns are not designed to be able to handle the pressures of the cartridges that they're actually being chambered in. So that's just one of those things that you want to bear in mind whenever it comes to these old school guns. For the most part, yeah, you can take modern ammo and run them through the old guns, like 54 rimmed, or 8mm Lebel, or 6.5 Carcano through an actual Carcano rifle or anything like that. But if you're rocking a gun that's not designed for it, even though it is chambered in that cartridge, it's not necessarily something that you would want to, not necessarily something that you would want to end up doing. So that's my 2 cents on it, and I think that's about all I have to say on it. I'm just going to go ahead and do the outro now. So thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.